Have you ever wondered why the world was on the brink of destruction for nearly half a century? This question takes us back to the aftermath of the Second World War. The world was left in ruins, and out of these ruins emerged two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, under Joseph Stalin, quickly expanded its influence, sparking fear in the hearts of many. The development of atomic weapons, first by the US and then by the Soviets, escalated tensions and gave birth to what we now call the Cold War. This was not a war fought with bullets and bombs but with threats, propaganda, and political maneuvering. Winston Churchill, ever the orator, encapsulated this tension in his Iron Curtain speech. He warned of the Soviet Union's growing influence, stating that an Iron Curtain had descended across Europe, splitting it into two ideologically opposed halves. Thus began a global chess game, with each superpower vying for control. In response to Soviet aggression, the United States took several decisive actions. The formation of NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, marked a significant shift in international relations. This was the United States' commitment to collective security, assuring allies that an attack on one was an attack on all. Then came the Truman Doctrine, where President Harry Truman pledged to provide military aid to countries threatened by communism. This was followed by the Marshall Plan, a massive economic aid package designed to rebuild war-torn Europe, preventing the spread of communism by promoting economic stability. The United States also orchestrated the Berlin Airlift, a remarkable logistical feat to supply West Berlin with food and fuel when the Soviets blocked all land routes. Each of these actions had a profound global impact, shaping the geopolitical landscape for decades to come. These actions solidified the United States' stance against communism and set the stage for further conflict. While the world watched, a new battlefield emerged: outer space. The space race, an intense competition between the United States and the Soviet Union, dominated headlines. Each side strived to outdo the other with remarkable feats of exploration. From the launch of Sputnik, the first artificial satellite by the Soviets, to the establishment of NASA and America's triumphant moon landing in 1969, the competition was fierce. But it wasn't just about exploration. Satellite technology held significant military implications, intensifying the Cold War tension. Back on Earth, the domestic side of the Cold War was equally tense. The House Un-American Activities Committee was on the hunt for communist influences, leading to the Second Red Scare. Fear of subversive elements infiltrated all levels of American society, sparking a wave of paranoia and suspicion. In the midst of fear and suspicion, a new generation was born, known as the baby boom. Tensions between the two superpowers flared up in far-flung corners of the world. The Korean War was a prime example, ignited by North Korea's invasion of the South. The US, responding swiftly, invoked its containment policy, aiming to prevent the further spread of communism. The war ended in a stalemate, with the Armistice Agreement in 1953 solidifying the division between North and South Korea that still exists today. Meanwhile, back in the US, the post-World War II baby boom was underway. An unprecedented surge in births, catalyzed by returning veterans and economic prosperity, reshaped the country's demographic landscape. Simultaneously, in the Caribbean, the Cuban Missile Crisis unfolded, marking the peak of Cold War tensions. The Soviet Union's placement of nuclear missiles in Cuba prompted a US naval blockade and intense diplomatic negotiations. These events brought the world to the brink of nuclear war, revealing the high stakes of the Cold War. After decades of tension and conflict, the Cold War finally came to an end. The symbolic fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 heralded a new dawn in global politics. This monumental event marked the beginning of the end for the Soviet Union, which would dissolve just 2 years later in 1991. This dissolution led to a significant shift in the geopolitical landscape. The United States, no longer needing to focus on containing communism, would turn its attention to other global issues, particularly in the Middle East. This shift in focus would lay the groundwork for future conflicts and policy decisions, creating ripples that continue to shape the world we live in. The end of the Cold War was more than just the cessation of a conflict. It was a monumental shift that reverberated across the globe. The end of the Cold War marked a new era in global politics, the effects of which are still felt today.